Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Coaches Summer Takeover. My name is Cheyanne, and I am the coaching director with Positive Presence Global, as well as a mentor coach. And today I am your host, joined by my amazing mother. Hello, Mom.
Well, hi, Cheyanne. Hi,
How are
everyone.
you
My name is
today?
Shannon. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So the reason I chose you, yes, because you are literally my day one and have always been a rock in my life, but also because you are very intertwined with the Positive Presence family as well, as I know that you have gone on your own coaching journey with your own coach. So how has that been for you over the last few months?
It's been very uplifting and amazing. If I hadn't have done this, I think I would probably still be curled up in a fetal position crying. So I think it was a very good choice for me to do.
Yeah, and I feel like it kind of came out of thin air. Like this wasn't something that you would approach me and you were like, I need a coach. And this wasn't something that I approached you and I was like, you need a coach. It was very much fate, I guess, to say. And, a lot of parents, or at least a lot of the feedback that I get from parents, or rather students that their parents are saying, is that their parents wouldn't be open to, coaching or even any sort of therapy or counseling simply because they have this preconceived notion that because you have a coach or because you have a mentor, it means that you're broken or you're weak or that something is wrong with you. And did any of those perspectives come into play for yourself when you were starting this journey, or what was your initial thoughts and perspectives?
I was in such a dark place at the time that I was reaching out for help without knowing when this all came about. For 6 years, I had been mentally abused by a narcissist, and I didn't even know it because they're so good at what they do. They're con men, con women. Um, I thought everything was my fault, and it was bad. But I got involved in this program, and Remy has been amazing. Our first session, I just bawled the whole time. I don't even know how she understood anything I said. But since then, there's been a few sessions where it's been pretty teary and emotional. And she has a way of kind of helping me to reframe things so I see it in a different light, which, it's in my bag of tools now where I can kind of step back out of myself and look at the situation and say, you know what? That's not my fault. That's not my issue. That's theirs. And that's
Right.
been a big help to me.
Yeah,
But
that's so awesome.
yeah, and as far as people looking down at, not necessarily looking down, but having a negative connotation towards getting help in any way, they shouldn't, because it's between you and another person and it's confidential, and it's very uplifting. It makes you feel like you have a friend to talk to that's not going to go and tell anybody what's bothering you. So you
Yeah.
can talk to this person openly and be honest with yourself and with that person, which is amazing. Because sometimes, like even with you, I can't open up as much. I'm sure I could, but there's some things that mother and daughter just don't talk about. And having a coach, you can talk about those things, and it's okay. And they don't judge you. There's no judgment, which was, I think, a big thing for me, because I'd been being judged by so many people for so long. And it was really nice. It's a beautiful thing to talk to somebody and not be judged and have them look at you like you are important and bring that back out in you. And, learning about self-care and having my days where I don't do anything but just pamper myself. I would have never done that in the past, but I've learned how to put myself first. And I think if parents would open up to the idea of learning how to do that, instead of thinking that, oh, there's something wrong with me. It's not necessarily there's something wrong with you. It's that somebody has put that thought into your mind. And it's all a mindset of what your perception is compared to what another person's perception is. And what it comes down to, it's all up to you. If you decide your journey, you pick the direction you go. Nobody's going to force you to go this way if that's not what you believe in. You're on your own journey, and a mentor and a coach just kind of help you along and encourage you. And
Wow,
it's
that was
wonderful.
powerful. Is that, I feel like we can just end the podcast now and send it on our way. That's amazing, Mom. And it's just so interesting getting to hear you talk about it, because of course we talk about your coaching journey and how amazing your coach is and just all the tools and resources that she has provided for you. But you touched on so many great things. Perspective and perception is a huge thing.
Yes.
Recognizing that although something might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to take back control in your life is massive. And at the end of the day, regardless of if you're at the lowest low or the highest high, everyone deserves that third person, unbiased perspective, that cheerleader that's going to be in their corner, that soundboard, that friend, whatever it may be. And I really love how you're kind of living, breathing proof about how a coach can be a chameleon and show up for you in those ways.
Absolutely. Because I mean, you saw me at my worst,
Yeah.
and you saw how I wasn't eating. Um,
Mhm.
I was just in bed, just crying all the time. And now I don't do that. I don't lay in bed and cry. I get up in the mornings. I take care of myself. I take care of the twin grandkids. And it's just, I actually interact with people now.
Yeah. And I mean, you can
I'm
tell.
whole. Yeah.
Yeah, you glow different. You hold yourself different. It feels like you have a newfound confidence and that you've really identified like who Shannon Ansley is. I mean, I remember growing up and there would be times where you're like, oh, I'm just Cheyenne's mom or I'm just Blake's mom and it was heartbreaking to hear that because I'm like, you are so much more than that. You just always had such a welcoming presence and provided a safe space, not just for myself and Blake, my younger brother, but for anyone who entered our home. And, at the end of the day, that's really what I wanted for you, was to be able to find who you are at your soul, at your core, and connect with that person. And so, I mean, how has that journey been, like identifying who you are as Shannon and not just as Cheyenne's mom or Blake's mom?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because before I became a wife and a mom and, a cheer mom and a football mom, baseball, softball. Yeah, I wore so many hats. Girl Scout, zip line, archery, rappel. It was like I was doing so much for everybody else. I never took time for myself. But before that, I was the person who was like, hey, you don't have to do things for other people. You take care of yourself first. And I lost myself growing with a family, which it's important as a parent to step back and take time for yourself, which I now see that. And I feel like I did, your dad and I did a phenomenal job with you guys. You're proof of that. Blake has the twins and doing amazing with them. So stepping back and looking at myself pre-family, I was a strong, independent, badass woman that, I could hold up to anybody and nobody messed with me because I was Shannon Ansley. Then I got married and I became Shannon Peters, Brad's wife. Then I was Cheyenne's mom, Blake's mom. I was the
Yeah.
Girl Scout leader. And I lost myself. And for so many moms and dads out there, they lose themselves being that parent,
Mhm.
being somebody's mom. You have to remember that you are a person. And if you don't take care of yourself, your kids do see that. Even though
Mhm.
you think you're doing a great job hiding the fact that you're, secretly driving to the park and crying, they know deep down.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that that's so powerful and empowering to see you on this part of your journey in your life, where you have gone through all of these trials and tribulations and, high highs and low lows through being a wife and being a mom and, getting divorced and going through that journey. And it's been amazing to watch you grow throughout, its entirety. And I'm so honored and blessed to be your daughter. I know I'm
Oh,
not.
and I'm more than blessed to have you for a daughter. You're amazing. Your
Well, thank
accomplishments just blow me away.
Thank you. So speaking to like tools and resources, what would you say are some of the tools and resources that have helped you specifically to find yourself and connect with your soul and, um, just become that best version of yourself?
One of the sorry,
You're good.
I
Water
had the
is a
neck
coping
surgery,
skill for
so
everyone. Yeah, for everyone listening, water, great coping skill, basic need. We could all take a water chug right now. So that's a friendly reminder.
absolutely, absolutely. Cheers. Yeah, I had that neck surgery in March, so my throat still gets pretty dry. Um,
Mhm.
I think, I know this isn't, probably people are going to hear this and say, well, that's not that big of a deal. But reframing for me, putting myself there and looking at the situation from outside of myself and saying, there was a reason I went through this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has a purpose in life, regardless of if you believe it or not. There's a reason why all those things happened to me. There's a reason why I got in the accident that, and I haven't been able to work and had to have neck surgery. There's so many reasons, and I may never know what that reason is, but to step back and look at the reason for Johnny to come into my life again and put me through everything he put me through. When we were together, I didn't see anything was wrong. I thought he was a great guy. Everybody else was saying, I think he's not such a good guy. And I just didn't want to believe it. I've known him for so long that I didn't believe it. So for me, reframing, stepping back and looking at that, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of lessons going through that 6 years. He actually, I don't want to say he helped me, but he did make me realize that I'm not just a mom. He made me realize I was a woman again, which for so long I hadn't thought about that. I didn't think about myself that way. I was just mom. So reframing, looking back, and I guess I could say thank you to him, but I don't speak to him and he's out of my life. And that is thanks to having the mentor and the coaching that I was able to put that past and slam that door on it and block his number. So, I don't have to deal with that anymore, which is huge for me. Another skill is, oh gosh, there's so many. Looking at everything's perspective for me. Putting into perspective the things in my life, the way that I react to things, the boundaries. Oh, Lord, the boundaries have been tough for me, especially with my own mom. It's been hard to put boundaries up with her because I love her. And, with family, you don't want to hurt them or insult them. So doing boundaries with family is very important. And sometimes you have to not hurt them, but hurt their feelings a little bit to say, hey, knock before you come over. Don't just walk in. Let me know when you need something. Don't just assume that I'm going to know what you need. Just those boundaries, and I run my own life. You can't tell me how to run it. That has been a big one because I've let so many people tell me what to do and how to live my life. And now I'm living how I want to and running my own life. And it's amazing. Yeah. I may not be able to go out and do what I want to do, but nobody can tell me I can't.
Definitely. Perspective is important. Reframing is important. Intention is important. And you kind of touched on that now with, it's not that you want to hurt their feelings, but I would argue that your intention was never to hurt, grandma's feelings or Johnny's feelings or anyone's feelings behind the things that you were doing, but it was out of love and respect for yourself and to protect yourself and to, draw that line in the sand and say, I know who I am and no one else can tell me who I am and who I'm not. And so I think that intention plays a huge role, because if your intention would have been, oh, it's malicious or it's controlling or it's, negative, then that's a different story. But I would argue that your intention was extremely positive and very much about self-love, self-respect, and self-confidence more so than any of those other things.
Right. And I mean, even with the narcissistic jerk that he is, I don't wish him bad. I want him to have the life that he deserves. Some people might say that that's the same thing as you wish him harm because, not a good person, probably doesn't deserve the best life. But no, I want him to have the life he deserves. And it's the same with my mom. I want her to be happy and live. I want her to get out there and do things. I'm going to take her out later on today and we're going to go to a new store opening. But I'm not doing it because she's begging me. She asked me if I went to. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like fun. And there's been lots of times where now I say no. I used to always be the yes mom, and you guys would call me the yes mom, and dad was the no dad.
This is true. This is very true.
And that's kind of carried over to now that you're both adults, and, I was an empty nester. It started happening with everybody else. I was saying yes to everything. And now I put up that boundary where I can say no. And if somebody gets their feelings hurt, sorry, you'll be okay.
Yeah. And really what I'm hearing is that you just learned how to be very mindful and intentional with your energy and who you are allowing to consume that energy. I feel like even in my own life, I've had what I like to call energy suckers, where, whether it's an abusive relationship or a toxic friendship or just something that the energy is not being reciprocated. And it is so powerful to identify that, bring awareness to it, and choose. It's a choice every single day what you're going to allow to take your energy and what you're going to put energy into. And so I'm really proud of you for getting to that space where you're not only recognizing it, but you're like putting it into practice.
Right. And another thing that Remy has really drilled into me is positives over negatives. Look at a situation, find the positives in it. Don't just look at it and say, oh man, that happened and this happened and it could have been different. Look at it and say, wow, I went out and did that. And I had a good time. And I got to hang out with my friends, or, I got to hang out with my family for a day. I recently did the family reunion. Unfortunately, you couldn't go, but we had so much fun for 3 days. And the twin grandkids, they didn't even want to leave. And, a handful of people ended up having COVID, unfortunately, afterwards, including my granddaughter. But instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, so many people got sick, it's like, man, we had a good time. Even the people who ended up not feeling good, they had a great time. So I'm glad I got to do that. And I wouldn't change anything that I'm going through right now for money.
I love that. And I think practicing gratitude is so important and, identifying the contrast, because if we were only given positive experiences and happy days that are 10 out of 10, we would become numb to that. And so it's important for us to recognize that not all days are going to be rainbows and gumdrops and sunshine. Like there are going to be days where you feel that you're at your lowest lows and in the trenches and like, why on earth am I experiencing this? And I think that it's for just that, the contrast, to recognize that, okay, but when I'm at my high highs, like I know that that's a high because I've experienced this low. And even in those low lows, like you experienced numerous family members getting COVID, that you were still able to practice gratitude, and hopefully that they were as well, and saying that that's not the only thing that came from this.
Right. And I even went out and bought a shirt. I found a shirt that it just says gratitude on it. And for me now, my mindset is gratitude, not attitude.
I like that.
And that's how I look at things is I'm grateful you asked me out, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to go out. Instead of saying, oh, I don't want to go out with you.
Right.
I'm grateful now for so many things, for the things that have been put into my life, even the obstacles I've had to hurdle over or fall over to get to where I'm at.
Yeah, because it made you who you are today.
Right. And it hasn't been easy. I'm not going to lie. It has not been an easy journey to get past the struggles I've been on and the injuries I've had or all the negativity. It's been a struggle getting past it. So I am living proof that you can do it. You just have to put that mindset of coaching and mentoring, parents, especially, think of it as, oh, I'm broken if I have to do that, or that's only for my child. It's not like that at all. When I was a teenager, I went to counseling and they wanted to do family sessions and my mom wouldn't go. So, I knew back then that I didn't understand back then the negativity towards it. And the becoming an adult, I still didn't understand the negativity because I know how it helped me when I was a teenager. So coming back into it as an adult is a different situation because I've been through life. Life has smacked me upside the head and life has cradled me like a baby. And I've got 2 wonderful kids and gorgeous grandkids. And, I've I'm healthy. I got a roof over my head, food on the table. So life is good. And that's the positive over the negative. And
Yeah.
the gratitude over attitude. It's just, you
Yeah.
gotta think that way. And before I met Remy and learned that, hey, stop thinking that way. You gotta look at it from a different perspective. Turn it around. Make it a good thing.
Yeah.
So now when
It's
I
almost
wake up, like,
yeah, it's kind of like a game if you think about it that way. I've even caught myself in moments where I'm like, this is the worst day of my life. Like, what is that one moment of life that, like, because within every single day, even on the worst days, there is that little bit of light and little bit of gratitude that can be practiced. And it is about perspective and it is about mindset. And I mean, your thoughts and beliefs create your reality. So if you're going out there and saying like, oh, today's going to be a horrible day. I know that this is going to go wrong. I know that this person's going to piss me off. I know that, so and so isn't going to do what I need them to do, then that's exactly what you're going to find out there. But it's a choice every single day to wake up and say, I choose to be optimistic. I choose to practice gratitude. I choose to view this world through a lens that the glass is half full rather than half empty.
right. And especially for women, we have to realize we're all in this together. We're all on the same team. Don't be putting people down, stick together, be happy, be positive, cheer each other on. And when you wake up in the morning, smile. Even if you had a nightmare and you're mad at somebody when you wake up, which I've done that, and you just want to punch that person because of what they did in your dreams. It's like, what am I doing? And that's kind of how I look at the negatives in my life now is, so what? It happened. It's over. I'm still here. That person doesn't mean anything to me. So, you just move on. And, waking up with a good attitude in the morning and being grateful for another day is amazing. And we have it so good. Our first world problems, they're nothing.
Yeah. Again, but it's perspective. I feel like that is something that you have really grown in and shifted in. And, even myself, I feel like I was constantly operating from a fixed mindset all throughout high school, all throughout college.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that's just the way that it is. That's just how that person is. That's just how my life is. And that's how it's going to be forever. And it really wasn't until I personally started working with positive presence and going through training that I recognized this idea of growth mindset. I had never been taught that before. I'd never heard that term before. And
Right.
when Paul King, who's our founder and CEO, was like, oh yeah, we have this, there's a fixed mindset, but there's also a growth mindset and there's also a victim mindset. And like learning about all of these different mindsets, I was like, oh my God, I've been operating from not just a fixed mindset, but a victim mindset at times, and just giving away my power and giving away that control and letting other people create my reality and write my story. And so it was really powerful learning this idea about a growth mindset and recognizing that, okay, Cheyanne, if you can get your place to a place of acceptance and peace and operate from there, that's going to be so much more beneficial than operating from this place of fear or anger or hate or jealousy, whatever it may be. And that kind of goes into play with our emotional scale. I don't know how much you use the emotional scale with Remy in your sessions or outside of your sessions, but the emotional scale has changed my life because when I was in high school and even college, I feel like I had 5 main emotions. I was either happy, sad, tired, meh, or like hungry. Those were the only emotions I knew. And so learning that we have the whole slew of emotional scale and all of these emotions that are really outside of that, it's not only helpful to identify like, oh, this is what I'm feeling and put a word with the feeling of what you're feeling internally. Because if you can't explain it to yourself, you can't explain it to someone else. And I feel like that's where a lot of conflict happens and a lot of, reactiveness rather than responding in those situations. And I have found so much ability to take back control of my own life from getting to that place of peace and acceptance prior to making decisions or starting conversations. And it is difficult. I will be the first one to admit there are times where I let something slip and I'm like, oh, that wasn't operating from a place of peace. That was operating from a place of jealousy or from a place of anger. And, even in those moments, like I could choose to beat myself up and be like, oh, you should be so much further than you are now. Why did you do that? Why did you say that? But in those moments, again, it's a choice to say, all right, how can I course correct? I did that. That didn't feel good. What would make it feel better? And I think that is all a part of this journey. I think that for a lot of the students that I work with, I can't attest to parents, but the students I work with, teens and young adults, they're like, oh, going on this personal development journey, we're starting coaching. It's going to be like this. It's just going to be straight up trajectory where I start down here and it's a straight line up. And it's not like,
No,
it's like all over the place. And there's twists and there's turns and there's ups and there's downs and roadblocks and caution signs and detours. And that is the beautiful part about life and about this journey. And we are all on a different one.
absolutely. And, I'm thinking about doing the Marcos. There's been so many Marcos that I've done that I'm like, oh. And then Rumi will respond, and then I respond going, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But I'm glad I have those resources like the Marcos, because I can reach out to Rumi at any time, even if she's asleep or she's out with her family or whatever, she's working or in a meeting. I can still go to those Marcos. And as soon as she gets it, she'll respond back to me. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can respond back at any time.
Yeah.
And that's how we communicate with each other. And it's great because I'm not interrupting what she's doing. She's not interrupting me. And I love it.
And you're still connected.
Right. So it's not just our mentor sessions and coaching sessions. It goes beyond that. It's if I have an issue that I'm having a problem with, and I'm having a hard time seeing past poor me or getting past that victim mindset, I can just reach out and Marco her. And usually by the time I'm done sitting it, I'll sit there and think about what I just said to her. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's not that bad. I know what to do.
But I think that everyone deserves that outlet. And I'm so proud of you for utilizing that 24/7 support through that video app that we use with all of our students nationwide, because a lot of my students are like, oh, I didn't want to burden you, or I didn't want to, take you away from your fiance or your family. And it's like, never are you a burden. And never do I want you to feel that you're taking me away from something. Like, you will always be a priority. And in those moments, I think that's the exact reason why it's so powerful, because sometimes you can almost coach yourself. Like, have you noticed yourself when you leave a Marco Polo and then you're like, oh, wait, like just through getting it out of my head and hearing it out loud, I think I have direction and I know what to do.
I think that's the big thing, is hearing it not just in your head, but if you hear yourself say it, because sometimes when the words come out, you don't even know what you're saying. But if it's on a recording, then it's like, oh, okay, that's not really how things happened. Or maybe I'm just overthinking things. But, in the heat of the moment, when you're emotional, sometimes you have to reach out to somebody and grab that lifeline and let them pull you back in. And there's been plenty of times where she's called and I'm still, she's texting me, or we're doing a Zoom meeting and I'm still crying over whatever it was. And she just, she's amazing. She's able to get me to calm down, take a deep breath, and relax. And then be able to talk about it. Because when you're crying about something, it's hard to communicate with another person.
Yeah.
Because you want them to be on the same level as you, and they can't understand the emotional trauma that you're going through at the time. Where with Remy, she's able to kind of break it down for me and help me realize, okay, so this is what happened here. And then how did you react? Instead of, well, what did you do? It's what was your reaction? Was there something different that you could have done or said, or, how does it make you feel? And I've never one time felt like she was blaming me for anything or saying that I was wrong or the other person was wrong. It's always put things into your perspective, not the other person. Look at it as this is how it happened, not it happened to me, but it happened.
It happened for me. I like to tell my students it happened for me.
I love that. It was for me, not to me.
Yeah. And you know what? All of our feelings are so valid and emotions are valid. And if we choose to not accept those emotions and those feelings and just repress them or push them down, they're going to come through in other areas of our life inevitably at the most inconvenient times. And so being able to just sit with that anger or sit with that sadness or whatever that emotion may be is really powerful. And in the long run is going to help you tenfold.
Right. And, and there's been times where I just go back to my room and just cry it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way I can cope with it, is because I know that there's nothing that I want to talk about. It's just, I'm mad, and it's not because somebody did some horrible thing, but maybe it's the way that they said something to me or came across. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go back to my room and cry it out, and just have some me time. And
Yeah,
that's
but
okay
you
to
know what?
do.
That's a healthy coping skill. I think I even said this in an earlier podcast that I was on, but it's all about how you exert that negative energy in a positive way. And crying, like scientifically, is positive, because after you're done crying, the neurotransmitters and endorphins that it releases are similar to like joy and happiness. And so crying is such a good thing. It doesn't make you look weak. It's, very empowering to allow yourself to feel those emotions and operate from that
Absolutely.
place that you're exerting that negative energy in such a positive way.
Yeah, and going, and a lot of times after I'm done crying, put myself back together, throw my hair up in a ponytail, put on some shorts and a t-shirt, and go out for a walk.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
just feels so good, because you get all that out of your system, and then you go out and walk, and it's like 100 million degrees out right now with the humidity, and it
Humid in
just
the
feels,
Midwest.
oh my gosh, yeah, my hair just is whatever. I don't it, it's ponytails and shorts and tank tops for the season. And
Definitely.
yeah, sometimes you got to go outside, even if it's like that, and just get some fresh air. And if you
Mhm.
can't breathe out there, just put a mask on, sit there with a mask. I've done that.
Creating movement Yeah, creating movement is so, so important day to day, even if it is just a 10-minute walk up and down the street. I feel like a lot of the students I work with are like, "I don't have time to exercise," or "I don't have time to do that." And it's like, well, if you just gave it a shot for 10, 15 minutes, then I guarantee you would be encouraged to do it for 15, 20 minutes the next time, because that's how good it feels after. It's not necessarily the during, like I've gone on some pretty long runs in my life, and it's never the
Right.
during that I'm like, "Oh my God, I love this. I feel fantastic." It's the after. And that's what keeps me to go back again for the next run or for the next workout. And fresh air, basic need, definitely a
Right.
basic need. And it's such a healthy coping skill too.
Yeah. And a lot of times, because Remy and I, we do our meetings early on Saturday mornings. And, yeah, I'm not that early of a riser anymore. So she always sees me with my hair doing some funky thing and a cup of coffee and not quite all the way awake. And I'll go outside and she'll be outside. So it's it's almost like we're sitting there together drinking coffee. And
Yeah.
there's sometimes it's such an intimate setting, just or intimate setting, just the two of you talking and being open with each other. It's so refreshing. It's
Mhm.
almost like you're sitting right there across the table from each other. And
Mhm.
it just, but that was the one thing at first I was like, online, I don't know how that's going to work out,
Yeah.
but I I'm wowed by it. The
God, that's
the
awesome. And I mean,
transformation I've had.
yes. And as a coaching director, I'm very close with your coach, Remy, as well. And just hearing her perspectives and her side of things, obviously, she does not break confidentiality and tell me what you guys talk about, but just
Right.
the 180 that you've made and just this newfound confidence and how you hold.
I just lost the sound. Can't hear you. I
Oh,
can.
I think we're back.
Okay. So I
That is it.
couldn't hear you.
The Midwest Wi-Fi. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments where honestly, when I first started coaching, I used to get so frustrated if Zoom would cut out or if, you know, I couldn't hear my student. And I kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, Cheyenne, like, what are you in control of? You're not in control of the Wi-Fi. You're not in control of the service. But you're in control of how you are allowing yourself to react to those moments. So, just taking a moment to reflect 2 years ago when I first started coaching, I would have been like, this podcast is over. We have to restart. We're ending. But now I'm like, we're embracing it and we're going to continue to go because this has been such a phenomenal conversation. And
It
again, I'm
has
just
been.
so proud of you for going on this journey and being open-minded to this journey and embracing this
You
journey.
know, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so honored to be part of it. And being in the parent program has been amazing. And I, at first was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And I know what I need help with. And And I have found more things that have been deep inside that have come up, and I've moved past that. And it's like, wow, just to get that out and talk to somebody about it was just so freeing and amazing. And
Yeah.
it's like, woo.
We always use, and I don't know if Remy's ever used this with you, but we always use a mountain analogy with our students where, each and every person is on their own mountain. So, I'm on this mountain here and you're on this mountain here and grandma's on her mountain here and Blake's on his mountain over here. And everyone's journey is different and everyone has their own backpack with their own shit, their own rocks that are weighing them down. And it's a choice to pick those rocks up and choose to carry them. And it sounds like what you've done is just slowly, one by one, like taking those rocks out and lightened your backpack to continue on your journey. And it's kind of a crazy analogy, but is that how it feels? Is that your backpack, like you're lighter?
Yes, absolutely. I don't feel like I'm carrying everybody's burdens now, which, when you guys were young, I had the responsibility of handling all the schedules. I coached your softball, his baseball, Girl Scouts. I mean, that was crazy, but I did it. And I had to learn how to let go of those things. And it's kind of tough sometimes to let go, especially when it's something so important to your life. But even the smallest things like, why am I still holding on to all these files? Just something as freeing as that is letting those go, shredding them. I was just like, oh, I don't need those.
Yeah.
I don't need this manual for something I don't have. And that's kind of how the mindset is stuff that's happened in the past. If you keep holding on to it and you don't let go of it, it's going to weigh you down and you're not going to be able to carry that backpack. Pretty soon you have to reach out for help. And it's better to do it before it gets to that point where it's dragging you down and you're crawling up your mountain instead of being able to walk and enjoy life.
Yeah. And even in those moments,
so
it's not because you're broken and it's not because you're weak and it's not because you can't do it by yourself, but it's because everyone, even the people who are the most successful in starting businesses and running global companies, have mentors and have coaches. Because everyone deserves that third person unbiased perspective. And if you can start coaching or any sort of self-help at the point where it's, prevention rather than intervention, you're that the game.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you hear a lot about prevention. Okay. So when I hear somebody say something about prevention, I think, your health, you go in for preventive checkups, but you don't think about the mental health side of it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't think about if you prevent, then you don't have to intervene, or you don't have to be to the point where I had gotten, where you're just broke down and crying and you're taking everything in as it's my fault. Everything was my fault. I was taking the blame for stuff that I wasn't even involved in. Oh, it's my fault. And now it's like, I wasn't there. Just like when, for instance, if my mom was to call and ask, is Cheyanne doing this or that? Now I'm saying, well, I don't know. You can give her a call, because it's not my worry.
Yeah.
What you do or what your brother does. It's, and you guys, sorry. Nook wants in on. He was sound asleep in the other room.
It's okay. We are a dog friendly family here, everyone.
Oh, yeah. But, I like that prevention, because a lot of things, just like a pre-workout, you're not just going to go and start lifting weights and running. You're going to stretch. So, stretch your mind.
Yeah.
Reach out for the help. Open yourself up to that. You need to do that. Everybody would benefit. And I'm a true believer in that. I haven't always been that way, but I remember when you guys were little and I had to take your brother in for some counseling, and ended up being family counseling. And it
was a shit show.
Yeah. And it became a rule that no tattling. If you told, you both got in trouble. If he told, you both got in trouble. And that made a huge difference in our life, a positive. I think it was a positive because you guys are good friends now. And before, I mean, when that was going on, you guys weren't such good friends. You weren't very close.
We were not great friends then.
No, but I mean, look at you guys now. Every time you come to town, you guys see each other and have fun. And
yeah, definitely. And I mean, him, and I should have him on here for an interview as well, because he has done a lot of personal development work and a lot of growth himself from where he was when he was, mid-teenager to where he is today at 23. So
right.
I'm definitely proud of him for putting in the work for himself and being a good role model for his kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love what you said about stretching the mind, because it really is, our mind is a muscle and we do have to exercise it and we do have to stretch it. And I think that that's where, like, again, perspective and setting intention and affirmations and using the emotional scale and making a choice every single day to operate from a certain place, like a place of acceptance, is so powerful. And you're right, you can't just jump into that. Like for me, I am very into running, and I ran my first ever half marathon last year, but I didn't start with running 13 miles. I started with running half a mile and then 1 mile and then 1.5. And I slowly worked my way up over like a few years to the point where I could get to 13.1. And I think our brains are the same way. We can't just flip a switch and be like, oh, I'm a positive person now. Oh, I view the world as glass half full. It really is. It does take practice. It does take very conscious everyday practice to do these things. And, even my students, they'll ask me like, well, how long did it take you? Or how did you do this? And it's like, oh girl, you want to sit down and hear my journey? Like, it's been a couple of years. And that's not to say that it's going to take you a couple of years, because remember, everyone is on their own mountain and everyone's journey looks so, so different than everyone else on this planet.
I mean, I'm even progressed just from 2 weeks ago. I've made more progression, which I thought, oh, I'm in a really good place. And then, I had something happen and it was just like, oh my gosh, and I'm on Marco saying, I need to talk to you. And, and I just telling her what happened, just like when my boyfriend got COVID. It was at the same time where part of my family got it, but his was from over the 4th of July when he was driving a bus for a concert, and he ended up catching COVID, and he's on a transplant list for his kidneys. So it's been really hard for everybody involved watching him go through trying to heal and getting better during this, because it's been almost a month and he still doesn't feel good. He's not sick, but it's just he's worn down. So things like that. I mean, 6 months ago, if that would have happened, I would have been like, oh, poor me. I would have been thinking it's my fault and it's on me and it's going to affect me for the rest of my life. But now I look at it as he's going to get better. It's not me that's sick. It's not me that doesn't feel good, but I do what I can. And for instance, I've been invited to go to Imagine Dragons on Tuesday next week. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to go. That'd be great. I started thinking about it and I'm like, you know what? That's probably not such a good idea. Seeing that COVID's still going around, I think I'm going to step back and thank you for the offer, but I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
And it hurts my friend's feelings. It hurts their feelings. I don't think it will. It's Robert. So I don't think he's going to be upset. He'll understand.
Right.
But I'm just, I'm more conscious about my surroundings and how things are going to affect me. Instead of just jumping into things now, I kind of, let's weigh this out.
Yeah.
Let's sit back and look at this. Is this something I really want to do? Or is this something that I'm doing because somebody else wants me to do it?
Yeah. And I think it's because you've become more aware and mindful and intentional with that energy that you have day to day. And it sounds like a lot, even with, Tommy, and I hope he feels better soon, but with him getting COVID, like that was a choice. You could have chosen to put that in your backpack, that big boulder, and weigh you down and carry that around with you. But you made a choice. You were like, that's not mine to take on. That is not mine to carry. And it's almost like you've developed some sort of like shielding practice to where you can be there for someone, but you're not going to fix or change or, heal them. Like they have to heal themselves.
Right. Oh, I shouldn't have just knocked the table.
That's okay.
It's knocking everything over with his tail.
Again, very dog friendly houses here.
Yeah, at least we're not wrestling.
Yeah. Yep. Well, are there any last minute things or last minute like tips, tricks, pointers that you would give the parents who are listening that are like, maybe coaching is for me, maybe coaching isn't for me?
Yeah, if you are on the fence about it, and just think about it this way, if there's something that's been weighing you down and you feel like there's nobody out there that would understand, give the coaching a try. Yeah, just one session. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue, but make that commitment to yourself to make yourself feel better. Stretch your
Yeah.
mind just like you would anything else. You have to take care of your body, you got to take care of your mind. And for me, I would highly recommend it. I never thought I was the person who needed anybody's help or guidance. I always thought, oh, well, I'm a mom, I'm tough. And you guys saw me growing up, or when you were growing up, I was everything. I did everything and still going at the end of the day, doing dishes at midnight. But
Yeah.
you don't have to do that. You can do some self-care, talk to a coach, mentor, and get that perspective that will make you realize, hey, I don't have to take on everybody else's burden. But
Right.
I highly recommend giving it a try. And like I said, if it's not for you, then what harm has it done?
I always ask students if they're kind of, fearful or a bit resistant at the beginning, I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What is the absolute worst thing that could come from this? And oftentimes the answer is, well, I would be right here where I am today.
Right. Right. It's not going to set you back. If anything, it might give you a little push forward and you might think, oh, well, maybe I can do this on my own. But at least it opens up your mind to, hey, yeah, oh, I remember what they said to me. I think I'll try that. But I'm still having biweekly chats with Remy, and I don't look at it as a session. I think of it as I get to talk to my friend. And it's great because this is my friend that I can tell my deepest, darkest thoughts to. And it doesn't matter what I tell her. She's not going to look down on me. She's not going to judge me. She's just going to take it for what it is and talk to me. And sometimes, I get some crazy thoughts in my head and it's like, what am I thinking? But, I'll tell Remy pretty much everything. It's just like when you have a dream about something and somebody really pisses you off in that dream and you wake up and you're mad at them for something that happened in a dream. And they're just looking at you like, why are you pissed off at me? I wasn't even there. You're like, oh, yes, you were. You did it. No, they didn't. You have to work through that dream sometimes. Life is like that. You have to work through it. And for me, coaching has been amazing.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Remy and the coaching and the whole program. Positive Presence has been huge in our life from every aspect. Watching you grow and you're so successful now, and it's amazing. And all the good things that you do, just like food drive and clothes, and benefiting the twins when we couldn't do anything for them. That was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love you so much. And I appreciate you for the constant support and encouragement. And even when I'm doubting myself, you're like, oh, you got this. Even if I'm like, I absolutely do not have this. You, again, have always been that rock for me. And you've always been such a strong woman. And I would even say that this coaching journey has made you that much stronger in my eyes. So, thank you for setting the example and just being such an amazing role model for not just me, but Blake and all of our friends who you welcomed in as your own, and always providing that safe space, non-judgmental space for everyone who's came across your life. And it makes my heart so warm and so happy to know that you now have that space within Positive Presence and Remy as your coach to have that non-judgmental safe space with, Remy as friend, cheerleader, sometimes tough coach. I'm sure there's been moments where you're like, I'm not that happy with you, but I know that this is from a place of love.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times I'm just like, oh, no, that's not me. I didn't Then I think, oh yeah, that is what I'm doing.
Well, I'm proud
And
of you. It's
self-reflection. We haven't
taking
even
back
never said that.
responsibility, taking back
Absolutely.
control, not pointing fingers, because when we point fingers, we have just as many, if not one more, right back at us. So
Absolutely.
I'm really, really proud of you. I cannot say enough good things about you. It is about our time to wrap this up, though. So I do thank you for joining me today on our Coaches Summer Takeover. And thank you to all of our listeners. And I would love to end with a saying from our wonderful, beautiful, amazing founder, Michelle Marie King, and that positivity can only be spread when it is present. See you guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me.